Hello and welcome back to the Movie Bar Podcast, the movie podcast for movie fans by movie fans. I changed it up. We're not average anymore. But the bar is now open. Welcome to episode 79, and we are headed back to Derry for another adventure with Pennywise. I am your host, John, and I am
Uh,
here with.
I'm Justin.
How you doing this week, Justin?
I'm alive.
Yeah, well, that's always a good thing.
Yep.
Um,
Halloween's next week.
yes,
No,
in a week from when we're recording this on Monday night.
it's not Monday.
It's, well, a week, 7 days from tomorrow.
From tomorrow, not from
Yeah.
today.
Okay. Well, by the time we finish this, it'll be a week.
Don't be
My
misleading
time.
people. Oh, screw your time.
Yeah, exactly. All right, a little bit of housekeeping. I forgot to write it. I thought I wrote it in there, but you know the story. Go ahead.
Huh?
Tragic passing last week.
What?
Well, actor Burt Young from the Rocky
I
movies
didn't know
passed.
what the hell you were talking about. I was like, what
Oh,
are you talking about?
yeah, Burt Young passed away last week. Was it cancer?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, best known for Rocky and Back to School and countless other movies. Uh, Condolences to his friends and family and fans.
Yes.
All right. Any new trailers? Did you see any new trailers this week?
No, I did not.
I saw one. I don't know if it's real or not, but it was Spider-Man New Home.
Oh, that one that you sent me. I don't know if that was real or not.
Yeah. I don't think it was, but it looks good, but it's probably not. All right. What have you watched this week?
Let's see. It Chapter 1. It Chapter 2. I was watching a little Beverly Hills Cop 2 because it was on. Um, yeah, that was it for movies. It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 kind of took up a lot of time.
Yeah, no shit. Um, so I watched It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. I planned on watching them both on Saturday and kind of just going straight through.
That's what I did today.
But yeah, that didn't fucking happen. I took a break in between the two movies. But and I also watched Elevator Game, which did not live up to the hype.
Yeah, I kind of figured it wouldn't.
But so yeah, that's it.
Yay!
So why don't we get into our main discussion? Back to Derry.
Down to burial town, the Mount of Derry, Maine. Oh.
Well, in It Chapter 1, 7 young outcasts in Derry, Maine are about to face their worst nightmare. An ancient, shape shifting evil that emerges from the sewer every 27 years to prey on the town's children. Banding together over the course of one horrifying summer, the friends must overcome their own personal fears to battle the murderous, bloodthirsty clown known as Pennywise. Was originally released on September 8th, 2017. Directed by Andres
Andre Muschietti.
Muschietti. Had a box office of 701.8 million US dollars, distributed by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers Pictures. It was adapted from the book It and rated R and currently streaming on Max and Hulu.
A cast of characters for Chapter 1. Jaden Lieber as Bill Denborough. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, the dancing clown. Bob Gray and It. Jeremy Ray Taylor as Ben Hanscom. Sophia Lillis as Beverly Marsh. Finn Wolfhard as Richie Tozier. Wyatt Olaf as Stanley Uris, Chosen Jacobs as Mike Hanlon, Jack Dylan Grazer as Eddie Kasprak, Nicholas Hamilton as Henry Bowers, and Jackson Robert Scott as Georgie Denborough.
And then in It Chapter 2, defeated by the members of the Loser Club, the evil clown Pennywise returns 27 years later to terrorize the town of Derry, Maine once again. Now adults, the childhood friends have long since gone their separate ways, but when people start disappearing, Mike Hanlon calls on the others to come home for one final stand. Damaged by the scars of the past, the united losers must conquer their deepest fears and destroy the shape-shifting Pennywise, now even more powerful than ever. Originally released on September 6, 2019, directed by Andreas Muschietti.
Always pronouncing that S that you don't need.
Yeah, well, yeah. Story by Stephen King, adapted from it, distributed by
Or maybe
Warner
you do.
Brothers.
I don't know.
Yeah, distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. Had a box office of $473.1 million and is rated R and currently streaming on Max and Hulu.
And Chapter 2's cast of characters. We have Jessica Chastain as Beverly Marsh, Sophia Lillis as young Beverly Marsh, James McAvoy as William Bill Denborough, and Jaden Martell as young Bill Denborough, Bill Hader as Richard Richie Tozier, Finn Wolfhard as young Richie Tozier, Isaiah Mustafa as Michael Mike Hanlon, Chosen Jacobs as young Mike Hanlon, Tristan Levi Cox as and Torian Matthew Cox as 4-year-old Mike Hanlon, Jay Ryan as Benjamin Hanscom, Jeremy Ray Traylor as young Ben Hanscom, James Ransone as Edward Eddie Kasprak, Jack Dylan Grazer as young Eddie Kasprak, Andy Bean as Stanley Stan Uris, and Wyatt Olaf as young Stanley Uris, and Bill Skarsgård once again as Pennywise the Dancing Clown.
Now, I wonder if they filmed this back to back.
Yeah.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty close together.
So we are discussing two movies today. The question is
One long story.
Yeah, just think of it as one big movie that lasted fucking
forever.
5 hours. Dude, I honestly felt like I was watching the fucking Immortal documentary again.
No, I didn't, because this at least was entertaining.
So, all right, so let's talk about the setting. We're back in Derry, but now we're 89 for the kids and kind of current day
2017-ish.
Yeah.
2016, 2017.
With the adults. I think that made it a little more relatable to our time.
A little bit.
You know, we were 5 and 6 in 1989, but I definitely liked it better than the 1960s in the original.
Well, I mean, it had a little bit more of the, better music and stuff like that. But...
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent music in this. Except for the fat kid listening to New Kids on the Block.
Well, that's what was popular then.
Yes.
Very, very popular.
All right. So the concept of the movies, is 7 friends fight this shape-shifting paranormal clown.
Yeah, buddy. It's a good time.
Oh, yeah. Really makes our childhood look boring.
Well, we hunted a bear once.
Yeah, but we were also in our 30s when we did that. It wasn't like...
Well, we weren't in our 30s. We were in our 20s.
Okay, late 20s, early 30s. That's what happens when you get a reverse 911 call saying, there's a bear in your area. Please do not go outside. Let's go.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
But, so yeah, like we discussed last week, the concept of this movie, interesting. Stephen King has a very twisted mind.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's got to go there.
Yeah. So let's talk about the sound and the music. Um, Much different than the original
Well, yeah.
because different time frames. So
Well, different time frame, different rating, different media. Because I mean, the miniseries was for TV. This was a movie or
yeah,
movies. Um, which I mean, stark difference, obviously. Um, but I did definitely like the music more in the new one, obviously, though.
yeah.
Little Anthrax in there. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: do you think it was better off as two movies, or do you think they could have made one
Oh, good God, no! You can't sit in the theater that
like
long.
3.5 hour movie? I mean,
You don't want to sit in the theater that long.
that seems to be
I mean, they
commonplace now.
they they definitely could have pared this one down. It didn't need to be 5 hours.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because I feel like I didn't feel as sympathetic towards them in these movies as you did in
Yeah,
the miniseries. I just didn't. They just weren't. I mean, they spent all that, the whole first movie was just them as kids. And I don't know, they didn't come off as relatable and lovable as the original Losers Club for me.
yeah. Um, I definitely think if they had stuck with the kids in the first movie and the adults in the second movie, this could have been a little shorter.
That's what they did.
But there was a lot of scenes that they cut back to the kids in the
Well,
second one.
yeah, and I mean they added some um in on the second one that weren't in the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah, they could have cut a lot of that out. They could have just, did what the first one did, but you had to make it different. And I get that. That's fine. But it did definitely make it very long. Um,
yes.
which doesn't make it necessarily bad, but I mean, there were some points where I was grabbing my phone.
There was a lot of times I was grabbing my phone. Like, I don't know if it's because I've watched so much horror over the last few months that I'm kind of like horrored out, or if it's the fact that I watched the original last week and then had to sit through 5 more hours of Pennywise. But like, I just could not get into it. I had seen the first chapter a couple years ago. I just watched it because I was like, oh, I never seen it. I want to see it. And but I'd never seen the second one.
Yeah,
And I was just like, okay, what the fuck? Like
yeah.
it just kept going and going and going. What do you what are your thoughts on like the cinematography and the way this is shot compared to the original? Granted, this is
I
30.
mean, we're talking, night and day. I mean, we're talking, a budget difference
Yes.
that, you know, is probably just astronomical. Um, and I mean, they had more money behind them now. But that being said, like I said, it's comparing things that were designed for separate medias.
Yeah. That's
You
true.
know, because the original was a mini series. There's definitely a lack of blood coming from bodies.
Yes.
you know there was the blood, but it wasn't coming from someone. It was coming out of the drain or
Yeah.
out of the book, so you can get away with that stuff. um the language was also obviously toned down for the miniseries, um which that definitely bled through more, giving it more realism, having the kids swearing at each other and all that, because let's face it, when the parents aren't around, that's what the kids are doing. um I called you a fuckhead every day.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So that was good. But I mean, I think the biggest issue with this movie for me was watching last week, because then I'm
Yes.
comparing, just straight comparing, and it's hard to do that because yeah, this one had way more budget and all that stuff, and it had all the modern technology and advantages,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it looked more fake than the miniseries did. The practical effects they used back then just came off better than these
Yeah.
CGI things. I mean, that initial shot of him biting Georgie in the sewer is just atrocious. I can't believe that made it through, like, into the final print. It just looked so bad. Just the way
Yeah.
his face looked in that bite. And I mean, the dancing thing,
That led
like, I get
nowhere.
it's supposed to feel like a fever dream and all that, but in the new one, it didn't fit. Um, so I mean, again, you're comparing something I grew up loving, and I mean, let's not even. I mean, let's save the Pennywise comparison for
Yeah.
later. Um, but that is a difference.
Had you seen these two movies prior to
Yeah.
watching them today? Okay.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Like I said, I had only seen the first one. The second one I was going into blind, but
I mean, it had been a while, and I'd kind of forgot my general overall feelings on them,
yeah.
which was probably good for its sake.
Like when I logged it in the letterbox, the first one, I must have enjoyed it the first go round because I gave it like 4 stars. But then I found myself deducting stars this go round.
Who knows if you did it? Maybe somebody else did it. Although I watched it on Max,
I did
so
too,
I don't know.
but like no, I'm talking about on letterbox. Nobody logs into my letterbox
Oh,
but me.
letterbox. Oh, letterbox. Sorry.
And I don't know. Like, I was texting my friend and I said, watching this movie, it's like I cannot get into it, even though like I was looking forward to watching it again. It's been a couple years since I've watched it, but I just couldn't get into it. And then I was dreading watching the second part. And looking at the reviews online, it was it really gone down like review wise the second part.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, maybe the second one will be better for you. And halfway through the movie, I was like, nope, this is fucking dragging ass. But let, let let's talk about the effects.
Oh. Ugh.
This movie, like these two movies, were way heavy on the effects compared to
Yes.
the original.
They
Granted,
over
once
they
again,
they overdid it in some areas.
yes, like don't get me wrong, the Chinese food scene,
Yeah.
1,000 times better. But other thing, like when he's changing into the head changes into the spider, or you know, and I can't remember, was the shower scene that we were a fan of last week in this movie at all?
No.
Best fucking scene. They could have done a field day with that.
Yeah. Well, they changed it a little bit to fit their narrative. That's how that goes. Nobody showered anymore in the '90s, I guess.
Did you shower in high school, middle school?
No.
Oh. And it seemed like the
I didn't
bully.
have to smell me.
That's true. But like to me, these two movies seemed a lot more darker than
Oh yes,
the
they were
original.
definitely far more horror than the miniseries were.
Yeah,
But again, movie versus
TV.
miniseries.
Yeah.
You could only go so far on the miniseries.
It's not
Um,
really fair to compare them because, like you said, that's
it's
apples to
not,
oranges.
and I mean, like with the bite to Georgie, I mean, the old one wasn't much better,
Yeah.
but you take into account, well, this one was made when this one was purportedly taking place,
Yeah.
about 89 right there, So, I mean, the fact that it had its issues with the practical effects, but, you know, it still came across on screen better than
Yeah.
that horrendous look of that face. Although the Georgie scene with him crawling away and screaming, help me with all the blood was better.
Yes.
um,
And it kind of opened up the town a little more, showing how
yeah.
the different people, how they react to things, like when, you know, um, what's gonna, like Ben when he's getting bullied on the side of the road there by the bridge.
Yeah, and the people just drive by.
They just try, like, you literally see two dudes holding down this kid. This other guy's carving his name, and they just drive by.
Well, they were old people, but
It doesn't matter. Like,
the balloon also popped up, so
yeah.
that could have been the explanation for that. I lost my train of thought, so there you go.
Oh. Now, in the second one, I was getting like a very anti-gay vibe from this movie.
I mean, I got well, there was in the respect that they were, hinting at Richie being gay,
Yeah.
which is, they never came out and just said it. And I don't know why they even bothered with it, to be really honest with you, other than to make, something for him to be scared of coming out. But it didn't really seem necessary.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I'm not saying
but
like,
again, we're talking about small town Maine, early 90s, late 80s. That's what it was.
no, not even late.
Well, yeah, even now, yeah, with that one, yeah, the
Like
second movie, but
when the second movie starts, you have that uh
yeah,
gay
that's still what it
couple
is. That's
that
still what
get
it is.
bullied because, they're gay in Derry, and they don't like gays in Derry, results in the guy getting thrown over the bridge. And the balloon definitely plays a bigger part in, these two movies, like all the balloons at the beginning of the second one.
Yeah.
But like, I was very disappointed that they took out the shower scene.
Mhm.
That would have been nice to see with visual, like, you know, visual effects, and the library scene with the balloons popping in front of the people.
Yeah. Again, they had to do it differently.
But
Um, but I mean, they still did, Stan as a head. They
yep,
just had it grow legs and be a spider. Um, and it was kid Stan instead of adult Stan.
yes,
Um, so I mean, but again, did you change it, make it, he wanted it darker, more horror-y,
yes,
which it definitely was. It was definitely more horror movie. But I'll be honest with you, I think that when it comes to the two, I'm just gonna say it. Tim Curry beats Skarsgård
oh,
hands down
tenfold.
as Pennywise, mostly because between the two, my kids would go to Curry's Pennywise
Mhm.
because he doesn't look scary.
Yes,
He comes off creepy as fuck, scary as shit when he talks, but he looks like a clown.
yeah,
Pennywise is scary as fuck. I'm not worried about my kids going up to him.
yeah.
They gonna stay the goddamn hell away from him. As would I. you know?
And you learn, like, you think that the red along his eyes down to his lips is paint, but then you find out later on that he's cut himself.
Well, I think that was just for that scene. But I mean, it's just like he was too visually scary
Yes.
immediately to really worry me as, gonna get my kids.
Yeah.
Is he just immediately gives off the stay the hell away from that vibe. Whereas Curry's Pennywise looked more like the clown you're gonna see on TV or at the kid's birthday party.
Hmm.
I get that. Well, he was been around for hundreds of years, blah 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 blah. But over that time, I mean, obviously, a smart predator is going to adapt, so he should change the way he looks over time. But it's just, he's just too repulsing that to think that a child would go up to that clown. I
Yeah.
mean, there are some that would, but they would be the ones that probably deserve whatever he's going to do to them.
Yeah.
It's
And
those asshole kids who just don't listen to anything.
yeah, kind of like we were when we were kids.
So it might be more helpful than anything.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Tim Curry was the better um, Pennywise, but definitely think that Skarsgård tried a little too hard
Mm-hmm.
when he was being like the nice Pennywise, and but yeah, I definitely agree. Um, let's talk about some things that we might have noticed throughout the movie. The when they're watching the slideshow,
Uh-huh.
was that not Canopy Lake Park? The log flume?
I wasn't paying close enough attention. But Derry Maine, yeah, it would be Canopy Lake Park. That'd be the only one up there, I think.
Yeah.
Although no, there's water parks up there.
Yeah, but this looked like the
Should
log
be some
flume from
ones.
Canopy Lake Park.
I mean, it might be.
When they're running through the town and you see the theater,
Uh-huh.
did you catch what two movies were playing on the theater at that time?
I did see it. And I made note of it in my mind, and then I forgot. But at the same time, I was like, those came out in '89.
I did the same exact thing. So the first one was Batman, which obviously came out in '89. That came out in late June of '89.
Uh-huh.
So the first one kind of takes place around the 4th of July,
Mhm.
especially that scene because they're getting ready for the parade.
Yeah.
And the second movie was Lethal Weapon 2, which came out in '89 also, but that came out July 7th,
Oh,
1989. Both Warner Brothers properties.
yeah.
Um, there was a cameo in the second movie.
Oh yes, Stephen King did show up. It was a good one for him.
Yeah,
I like that. It takes a shot at Arthur. Doesn't people don't like the endings.
yeah.
It's always good for a little self-deprecating humor.
Did you know he was in Sons of Anarchy?
That doesn't surprise me. The man gets around. If he
Yeah,
likes something and he puts his stamp of approval on it, he generally gets in on it.
yeah. Um,
Um,
yeah, he played a biker that was good at dismembering bodies and getting rid of them.
sounds about
Which is
right.
right, yeah. But uh, what about the use of zombies in these movies? There really weren't many zombies, or if any, in the first one.
No, but I loved the callback to the first movie and the second one with the not scary at all, scary, very very scary doors.
Yeah,
Where in the first one they open the door and he goes, "Ah, where's the legs?" And the second one they open the scary door and it's the legs.
yeah.
That was great. I do appreciate the fact that they finished that.
And also, these movies took them out of mostly the sewer. Like,
Yeah, put it in the house there.
the house and then the haunted attraction at the carnival
Hmm.
in the second one. What were your thoughts on that? Like,
I mean, it probably plays out more like what would actually happen
yeah,
in the second one. Just because, over time they would just build over all that old stuff and, tear down buildings, build on top of it. And it would be no shock up there to find a well in a basement somewhere. Um, so I feel like it's, fairly historically accurate. Um, but I mean, it kind of took away some of the element of hunting through this. Although, I mean, they still were down running through them,
yeah. They still went through the sewer
but
when
it
he
just wasn't
kidnapped
as
Bev,
prominent.
and yeah. Um, I want to talk about the scene when they're going down into the sewer or into the well,
Uh-huh.
and all the kids get down except for Mike,
Yeah.
who then gets jumped by the
Yeah.
bully,
Uh-huh.
and they tussle for a bit, and he has that,
Cattle prod.
yeah, like that. I like that scene,
Mhm.
and he ends up saving himself by kicking the bully into the well. Trying to think of the guy's name.
Bowers. Henry
Bowers,
Bowers.
yes, yeah, Bowers. And you assume that he's dead because he
Mhm.
took a nasty fall down a well. But you find out in the second one he gets out after going on. This is all after his murderous rampage of you must
Killing his
kill them.
father.
Yes, very bloody.
Mhm.
Um, what are some other scenes that kind of stuck out to you?
Well, you already brought up the Chinese food.
Yep.
Used a lot more CGI for that, which it did bring it along a little bit better. Um, I thought it was funny that how much adult Mike in both movies sounded the same.
What do you mean?
The narration Mike
Oh, okay.
sounds
And
the same in the miniseries as he does in the
yeah,
first and second one. It's crazy. Who knows? Maybe they use the same guy. I don't know. It was not that long ago. He wasn't that old. Um, um, so I did notice that. That was kind of cool. I mean, the thing you notice the most is this one kind of dragged out every kid's interactions with
yes,
it and Pennywise a little bit more in that, like in the miniseries, you don't see Stans run in with them. They just talk about how Bill rode away on his bike with him on the back of his bike, and they outran the devil and all that stuff,
yeah,
which you don't really see in this one. You don't. I don't recall in the first one him ever saying "Hi, O Silver"
no,
away,
no,
but he does in the second one. So why, if you didn't do it in the first one, why would you do it in the second one? Just saying. Um, and now I lost that train of thought too. That was great. Cut myself off.
yeah. No, I mean, like, I understand each director is going to put their own stamp on it,
Yeah.
but like,
Essentially what I was saying is there were certain big things that were added on to the second one that they didn't have in the first one, mostly because of time constraints again.
yeah,
But even having all that extra time to like have that scene where Stan's getting chased by that thing from the picture,
hmm,
uh, it it didn't help. I felt more, fear and sympathy for the kids in the mini series,
yes,
just through their retakes of it and just, explaining what happened instead of actually seeing it. Use it, it's one of those less was more,
yes,
you know, the less you saw it, scary it was. You know.
Now, like the one thing that kind of stuck out to me in the second one was that little kid.
Yeah.
He first approaches Tozer in the Chinese restaurant and says something that kind of freaks Tozer out. He flips out on him, thinking
He's
that
like,
it's
"Oh yeah,
something.
it's just a thing from your show, man. I'm a fan." Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that kid felt like a plant.
yeah. And then you see him when
Bill is down,
yeah,
face down in the gutter.
yeah, and when so then you figure like he figures out, oh, the kid is in trouble at
Hmm.
the funhouse. That scene, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, we've all been in those mirror mazes. It's very thick glass at times, of
Yes.
plastic, and
Plexiglass.
Bill's sitting there banging on it as hard as he can, can't even break it. Pennywise is fucking headbutting it over and over and over again. Finally, just to break through and fucking eat the kid. Like,
Yep.
like that was amazing.
It was a good scene. Yes, it was.
So let's talk about the cast choice. The original had a lot of notable names:
Hmm.
John Ritter,
Harry Anderson,
Harry
Tim
Anderson,
Curry,
Tim Curry. This
O'Toole,
one, yep, this one you got James McAvoy,
Bill Hader.
Bill Hader, uh,
Skarsgård is relatively big name.
Jessica Chastain.
Hmm.
The kids, I really don't know anything that they've been in.
Well, the kid from Stranger Things.
Never seen it.
Um, the Bev, young Bev, is the um,
Sophia
she's
Willis.
from she was in the Dungeons and Dragons, not yeah, Dungeons and Dragons movie. She plays the red-haired girl in
I've
that
never
movie
seen
too.
that either.
That was a good movie. So I mean, they have. I don't know about the rest of the kids, but I did look her up because I thought she looked familiar, and she was.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this one in one area did do a better job, and that is between finding people who looked like their younger selves.
Yes.
That kid who played young Ben and the guy who played old thin Ben, I mean, they look like they could have been the same kid, just grown up and lost a lot of weight and changed his hair
Yeah.
color. Same with Eddie
Yeah.
and the way the both of them talked, how they used, you know, um, their language there, the way they spoke. I thought that was great. They were spot on.
Yeah.
Um, even Tozier, they did a good job there too. Bill, not so much because they use such a big name with McAvoy. Um, and I would say that Bev, they didn't look all that much alike, but those other ones, they looked like spot on kid to
Yeah.
adult.
And, oh, that was the other thing too about like these movies compared to the original was like you see more of when they're interacting with each other.
Yeah,
Like, you kind of get like how they meet and how they become the losers, but then in this one, like it shows them hanging out more, like when they're jumping off the cliff or they're spitting the loogies, or
yeah.
they're all staring at Bev while she's sunbathing, and then
Which again, that stuff should have lent itself more for me to feel for these characters and be more invested in them, and it didn't work.
yeah, and
By the end of the movies, I was just like, you know what? I honestly would not mind if Pennywise won. Like, I
Um,
want to see this 27 years from now.
so while we're kind of discussing that, the lengths. So the first one came in at 2 hours and 15 minutes,
I mean,
and the second one came in at 2 hours and 49 minutes.
they definitely could have cut some stuff out.
Yeah,
Um, but at the same time, how often does a studio give you that much time to do a story right?
yeah,
Is that's always the biggest complaint when you get such a big book and you turn it into a movie
yeah,
is you lose so much. You have to cut characters, you have to cut scenes, you got to cut whole aspects of the characters. Because like with Bev, you know, they hint at it, they don't say it, but I mean, it's pretty obvious in both movies. She's being assaulted and abused by her father.
yes,
And I mean, they're not saying it, but in the books, they're a lot more in the book, it's a lot more blunt about it. And there's more to her in the book than there is and
yeah,
can be played out in the movies. So it's one of those things that it's like, yeah, it was long. And a lot of that can go on the director and the script writers and all that stuff for having too much of a lull in the action in places and all that stuff. But um I wish they would give more movies from books this kind of treatment, whereas they gave them the ability to tell the story,
yeah.
and not have to cut near as much as you normally do.
And it's very, very rare for like a horror movie to get this kind of time.
Yeah.
And normally you're looking at like an hour and a half to an hour 45, 2 hours at the most.
Yeah.
But they obviously knew what they had with this franchise, and in hopes of doing the book justice. I mean, obviously it
Yeah.
worked because they made over almost $1 billion between the two of them.
Yeah. And I mean,
So
it's one of those things. I think
yeah,
it was good that I'm glad that they did give them the 2 years separation between release, because I think had they released them too close together, that would have really hurt them even more.
yeah,
Um, but I also think that it probably would have been to our advantage to have taken more time in between watching them.
that it was pure hell watching them fucking day after day. I can tell you that. And like there's movies I could watch over and over again in a row for 6 hours, and I found it a really hard struggle to get through these two movies.
I mean,
Like I said earlier, like I enjoyed the miniseries. That was long, 3 hours,
mhm.
and like there was just something about these. I didn't find it scary. Like, yeah, the visual effects were like there were some scenes that were extensions of what the miniseries scenes were, like the bathroom scene when she's in there.
Mhm.
That was just blood all over the sink in the miniseries. This one, it was fucking blood everywhere. Like,
Well, yeah.
but you really can't compare that because it's TV and movie. I I don't know. Like, this was a real struggle for me, and but character development throughout the movie. Um,
They worked a lot in.
oh,
I mean, so you do get, the growth from, Richie. He basically, as the movie goes on, he grows his balls. He finds his balls.
uh huh,
Um, to stand up for himself and not feel scared. And Eddie, he gets his balls. Although he dies in the process. Spoiler alert. Um, and I mean, here's a one thing you missed. Mike in the miniseries, when he gets attacked, he's in the hospital during the whole final fight, so he's not even involved in the final fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So there's a big change. And I mean, it's just like Ben or Bill. Sorry, I just don't see as much from him in this movie. I felt the miniseries did a better job with Bill and
Yeah.
the Georgie story.
Which is basically the main focal point
Yeah, and I
of
mean,
them going after Pennywise to avenge Georgie.
yeah, and I mean, one of the big differences between the miniseries and the movie is the miniseries, they find the bodies.
Yeah.
They find the dismembered bodies. So they know Georgie gets his arm ripped off. They know, what he went through and all that stuff. And same with that little girl that Pennywise takes later in this movie than he did in the miniseries.
Yeah.
When he takes her in the backyard, the mom comes out and notices it and sees it, and so I mean that's a big difference going from having a murderer to these kids are just straight up missing.
Yeah.
So I
I
mean
mean,
that should have added more more suspense to it than it did, though. Because it's one of those things like in the mini series, you've got Mike talking to, trying to get info at the scene of that girl's murder.
mhm.
And in this one, you get no police involvement.
No,
You
the
know, you,
extent of
you,
it
you
is him sitting by the CB radio listening to the police calls.
yeah,
That's how
and,
he's.
and you have missing children's posters, and you don't have police warning, the policeman warning the kids down in the barrens, about the curfew and all that stuff. So you
So
would think that with the kids missing over the dead ones, it would still be more urgency in that town.
yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, there is the scene when they're leaving school and it says curfew 7 p.m.
yeah,
on the bulletin thing, and there are two police officers standing there with the lady when
yeah. When she's looking for the kid rips them there, but
yeah.
and I mean that's what I'm talking. Like it should have been a little bit more.
Yeah,
You know,
and as far as the posters go, there was that stack of posters whenever a new kid would disappear would go on
yeah,
top, and you'd forget about the others. Whereas in the original, it was like fucking everywhere.
yeah.
And so, all right, what was your favorite scene in the movie? And let's do the first movie first. What was your favorite scene in the first one?
Uh, I don't know. What was yours? I'll think about it.
Well, the first one was kind of hard. I think I made a note of it too. Um, I definitely think it was the bloody bathroom.
Yeah, they did do a
Uh,
little bit. They did better
yeah,
by having it all over the bathroom.
and the fact that her father was able to walk in and not see it,
Yeah.
like she's fucking covered in blood. There's blood everywhere, and she starts cleaning it. Like, what about you?
I like the rock fight scene.
Ah, yes, that's a good one. Those kids took a
That was
fucking
good.
beating from those rocks and didn't go down.
Yep.
I'll give them
Mm-hmm.
that.
That was
Um,
a good scene.
you know, like that was crazy. Like they're getting hit in the face, and that like there's no blood until the
Well,
like the last part of it.
yeah. Well, I mean, uh, Bowers bled pretty quick. He had a big bump after that first one. Um, but no, I mean that's kind of the way it was the whole movie.
Yeah, like it was like they were saving the blood for certain scenes,
Hmm.
the bathroom scene and all that.
Well, again, I mean the bathroom scene. You can do that all day. You can do that on television because it's not coming out of a body.
Yeah.
It's blood's only really an issue when it's coming from somebody or something.
All right. How about the second one?
You know, as much as I made fun of, and I didn't really like all of the effects that they used and all that stuff, I did like seeing them back Pennywise down and seeing him shrink.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty good. Not a great ending to the movie by any means. I'm not endorsing it, but I thought that him shrinking down was pretty good use of the
I thought you were gonna
CGI, I
say it
think.
was when the old lady was running around the apartment naked.
Oh no, you like the swinging titties.
No. My favorite scene was definitely the mirror maze scene.
Yeah,
What was that kid in?
Iron Man
Okay, that's
3.
what it was. I just enjoyed watching him get fucking eaten up. I
Hmm.
don't know why. Um, the kills, the slashing wasn't really much slashing, but
Yeah, it was a bit.
you know, I think there could have been a little more.
Yeah. Hey, he did get the knife through the cheek there. That was a pretty good effect too. When
Yeah,
he was talking and you could still see the blade in his mouth.
yeah, that was cool. Um, the scene when Bowers is breaking out of the mental institution and the guy opens the door. What the fuck is this? And the big fat guy follows him. How about the horror?
This was definitely more hard driven than the miniseries.
Yes,
Um,
but I think the mini
definitely,
series was a little more scarier than this. So
yeah.
I think this tried too hard. That was the problem.
Yeah, I think this was just like this was the thing is, again, we're comparing horror movies here because either way, it's still even the miniseries is still a horror movie.
Yeah,
Um, it's just I think the miniseries focused more on the psychological horror of it, and this one kind of went more with the straight up, you know, darkness, scary vibe,
yeah,
visual style of horror.
yeah.
Which I mean,
Especially
you do it, you know. But I
you know
think they did try too hard with it.
yeah, like when you look at the house, and I believe it was Ben or whoever was running around the house at first, and there's
Eddie.
zombie Eddie, yeah, and there's zombies coming from every which direction, and like we all know that the antagonist is Pennywise.
Hmm.
And I think, like, you were talking about the missing bodies and all that. I think that was the zombies.
Well, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure. But I don't know. Favorite kill?
Uh,
You really don't see much.
there aren't a lot.
No.
Um, I mean, because you get Georgie dies.
Uh-huh.
That's a pretty good scene. There's the kid in the maze. There's
Yeah.
Bowers, Pennywise,
And then,
Eddie
yeah.
standoffs himself. It's not really a death scene.
You don't see it though.
I know, so I said it's not really a death scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the Eddie death was probably the most unexpected.
Yeah. Now he survived in the miniseries, right?
I believe so.
And like with this one, you actually see the heart instead of the shadow of them
Yeah,
holding it up, but you actually see it. The gore, definitely a lot more
definitely
gory.
much more.
Um,
Again, if you can, you might as well.
we've already discussed 1990s Pennywise to this Pennywise. Any more you want to add to that?
No, I mean Skarsgård did good, but again, it's a whole different ballpark.
I think the Tim Curry version was very minimal
Yeah, and it had to be.
compared to the Skarsgård version. Like I don't mean like killing or
No,
blood
I
wise, but like
he was
transforming.
minimal. He was minimal throughout. They didn't use him too much.
Yeah,
A lot of the scenes that he was in,
yeah,
he was as something else. It
yeah,
was most of the time. So they definitely used Skarsgård as Pennywise more than Tim Curry got used.
yes.
But again, less is more.
Okay. Sequel potential to these two movies. Do you think there could be a
You could
chapter three?
you have to wait 27 years.
So you figure
I mean,
2017.
that's just the way it is. It's like, every 27 years somebody's going to remake this. That's just what's it's not going to be a sequel. Everybody, unless they come up with an ending to the second one and lead it on into a sequel. I don't know, but
So you figure 2024, 2044. I mean,
something like that. Yeah,
that would be the next time we could see Pennywise. Uh,
probably.
do you think it would have been better if they had stretched this out over 3 movies and not just 2?
No, I think they should have just cut some of it out.
I think if they had done 3 movies, the first one's strictly kids, the third one's strictly adults, and the second one is kind of like a mixture of the two. Put them at an hour and a half apiece. Would have been a fucking hell of a lot better.
Yeah,
But
they could have just cut some stuff out. Maybe stretched it, make 1 3-hour movie.
yeah, reboot potential. This will always have reboot potential.
It'll be rebooted till the end of time.
I know McFarlane Toys just brought back their movie Maniacs line, and one of the first ones they're doing is it from these movies. They're doing a Warner Brothers 100 anniversary.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they chose this one over the Tim Curry one, but
Well.
all right. Before we recommend this movie, Justin, what do you give the first one?
I mean, it was solid. It's a pretty good horror movie either way, even if some of the effects junk out. And it's still a Stephen King, so it still gets a 4.
Well, I gave it a 3 mugs. Um, the first one received a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 86% out of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes, and 3.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. What do you give the second one?
3.75.
I gave it 2.5.
It had to go down.
Yeah. As it did with IMDb, gave it a 6.5. Rotten Tomatoes is 62%. Letterbox 2.9 out of 5. Justin, do you recommend it Chapter 1?
Yes. and chapter 2. I will never not recommend Stephen King. I mean, it's still a great horror story.
It is.
It's just I'm nostalgic for the old one. I like the old one more because I feel the old one just got it across better.
And you really can't recommend the first one without recommending the second one if you want to know how the story ends.
Yeah, you got to finish it.
I do not recommend watching them within a week of each other. Break it up.
Give it a little time.
Give it a little time. All right, I think that concludes our time in Derry, Maine. Any last final thoughts you want to add to this?
No, I look forward to the next time I get to watch a Stephen King movie.
Mine's is not 3 hours. Plus.
Next week, we'll be covering The Green Mile.
No, actually, next week we will be dropping a special trick or treat early. So be sure to keep your eyes out. I mean, if you can figure out when, you'll know what it is. I just have to remember to post it. But no.
Might want to set a reminder.
Yeah. I had.
Oh, sorry.
Don't give it away. Man. That's right. We are covering Jason X. We want to see Jason go to space. But I think for now, the bar is closed. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow and stay up to date with the podcast at the Movie Bar Pod on X, at the Movie
Twitter.
Bar Podcast on Instagram, at the Movie Bar Pod on YouTube and TikTok, and at the Movie Bar Podcast on Facebook.
We are on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and most places you listen to your podcast. And be sure to check out our website, www.moviebarpod.com.
Thank you for listening. Please let us know what you want to hear by contacting us on social media or via email at themoviebar@outlook.com. Please be sure to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Bye.
It's time to float, Bill.
We all float down here.